Hello and welcome to Six Figure Souls Doing Good and Making Money. This is a very special season 7 highlighting my co-authors of our second book in our trilogy, The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Successful Soul Professional, 22 Powerful Strategies for Soul-Aligned Entrepreneurs. I am your host, Camille Miller. I am also the lead author for this book and pioneer for the soul professional movement. Today we have with us Dr. Liz Lehman. She is founder and CEO of Aluminate Life. Thank you, Liz, for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. I'm really excited to talk about your story because as our listeners can hear, I introduced you as Dr. Liz Lehman, and now you are a candle maker. So let's go back a little bit and tell people a little bit about your journey, where you were and what you do now. And then I'm going to ask you a lot about entrepreneurship and your journey along the way. But I want to give like that small snippet just to start off the show.
Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of different candles out there, a lot of different people making them. Probably not that many that started as a physician. So yeah, I was an anesthesiologist for 20 years. And I say I really became an accidental entrepreneur. I mean, this was an accidental kitchen experiment turned into a business in the space of not really loving my chosen career in anesthesia. I was always looking for other things to do outside of that world that brought me joy. I mean, there were parts about it I liked, but it had gotten to the point where I would drive into work and I had to visualize putting on like this protective, energetic suit to make it through the day. And with sort of this mantra in my head, like, I hate this job. I hate this job. Take some deep breaths. I can do this for 8 hours, 10 hours. Like, I can do this. Yeah, that's where I was. So in that space, I was doing, a lot of running. And for me, physical activity was sort of my outlet that brought me joy. I'd done my yoga teacher training because I couldn't just do yoga. I was very type A at the time. I had to do the full on, training. And in doing some ridiculous yoga pose, a woman my age had absolutely no business doing, I tore my hamstring muscle, like badly, felt it like rip off the bone. And ultimately it was like the universe giving me a sign to slow down and stop running around. And I think all that negative, I know all that negative energy and thought I was having began to manifest in my body, first with that hamstring injury. So in that recovery space, sitting on a frozen water bottle, feeling oh so sorry for myself because I'd been told, like, you need to sit down and be still and not do anything for 8 weeks and heal, or you're going to need surgery and the recovery is going to be worse. And I remember telling the physical therapist, I'm like, yeah, but it only hurts when I take the stairs. She's like, you don't get it. You should not be climbing stairs. What are you doing? And I was like, oh. I had to really retrain my brain because I was like, I take the stairs. I don't take an elevator. What are you talking about? So in that space of feeling sorry for myself, I was on the computer and a blog popped up on making candles. And I swear to you, Camille, I had never to that point read a blog in my life. I was like, who has time to read blogs? I certainly did not, but it was on making candles. And I had always loved candles as a kid. I would play in all the candles my mother had burning around the house because I grew up in the 70s and that's just what parents did. There was no like seatbelts and safety helmets, and candles were all over, no little covers on the electrical outlets. So she would yell at me, Elizabeth, get your fingers out of my candles. You're ruining my candles. And I always loved them, but I had never considered that you could make them. But I was like, well, I can't do anything for the next 2 months. So I Amazoned a candle making kit that day. And that's honestly how this process started.
Wow.
When I look back on it, it's really like, wow, the universe sent me a huge sign. And so, yeah, that's where it started. And I didn't leave anesthesia right away. For a while, I was, doing both and, trying to grow this business and, all the things that, baby entrepreneurs do when they're developing a product. But it was getting busier and things were taking off. And it's like waking up at 3 a.m. to pour candles for wholesale orders, which is very not sustainable. And I was really stuck between two places. And again, in that not really tuning in to my inner knowing, intuition, I started getting pain in my hands, which led to arthritis. I mean, there came a day I was operating in the anesthesia space with a lot of hand problems, wearing braces, trying to take care of patients. And there was a day that I literally could not do that job anymore. And I was like, all right, let me get the surgery that, had been recommended that I get the surgery.
Okay.
I never did anesthesia again because the surgery did not go well, led to a second surgery, led to a third surgery on my hand. And I physically now cannot practice anesthesia. But I tell that story and people are like, oh, that's so sad, Liz, all that work and you can't do it anymore. I said, no. I said, that's just what it took for me to become realigned in my purpose. So I share that story to say, don't wait for it to get so bad to do what you love, you know?
Oh my gosh. And I keep hearing that the universe keeps bringing to you what you are missing over and over and over again until you get it right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll share this too, which is really, this just came up for me yesterday when I was having a discussion with somebody, and it was about, energy and healing and being soul aligned, really. She said, did you ever make the connection that what you did before in your job, meaning anesthesia, was that I was hypervigilant, I was running around, I was doing all of these things to provide like serenity and peace and zen, sedation, like sleep and comfort for somebody. And she's like, Liz, you're doing the same thing now with your products. Like you're checking all the boxes, you're sourcing all the things, you're making like the best experience for somebody else to like enjoy and be zen and, get that comfort from. I was like, wow, you're right. That is interesting.
Wow.
I'm still processing that because this is less than 24 hours ago. This was, kind of became so apparent. And I'm like, yeah, it is exactly the same thing, just different modality.
Wow.
So there's that.
That's incredible. Incredible story. I knew some of your story, but it's just hearing it all out is just beautiful, really. How long have you been in the candle making space? Because I want to talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey next.
Sure. So this process started, I've been making candles and playing with it for about 7 years now. I mean, that was really just the kitchen experiment. Like it was almost 7 years ago that I tore my hamstring. And this started. And I've been out of anesthesia for about 4.5 years.
Okay. That was my next question. when was the hand surgery? Okay. So you started it and you did it 2.5, 3 years, it sounds like, before you took the leap full time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No,
I was just going to say, and you mentioned as part of your story that you were doing it at nights, I guess on weekends, trying to fill orders and juggle 2 careers, which a lot of people do as they start their side gig, right?
Yeah.
Which becomes this huge passion. It starts to build and they're not 100% ready to take that leap mentally. And then the universe pushes them into it. It happened exactly the same with me. The universe just closed the door. Yeah. So
it just had to happen. It had to happen. And if you think back, you're like, I don't even know how I did it. It was truly unsustainable.
Yeah, exactly. I totally get that.
Living 2 different lives and splitting energy like that. I mean, you can't function for too long in that space.
All right. So the first day that you decide, this is it. I am going forward. I'm doing this. What was that like? Not even just the first day, even the first year, because I think that's when a lot of entrepreneurs have those high ups and those low lows of what the crap did I do? Like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, did I make a mistake? Can you talk
Yeah.
about
So
that?
for me, I was still doing anesthesia. I had cut down, like I
Right.
was 32 hours a week instead of 40 plus.
Okay.
Um, but there came a moment where I had to commit to, I was like, had been working with designer, changing packaging, and it was like, okay, am I going to do this? Am I going to commit this huge amount of expense to like thousands of SKUs, 26 different SKUs, 1,000 each of printing? So it was like a over $20,000 investment of my own money. I said, it's a major like shit or get off the pot moment. Am I going to do this? Am I all in? Even though I was still doing another job, for me, that was the moment where I was like, yeah, I'm in. And this is what it's going to take to make it next level.
All right, I'm going to stop
And
you for 1 second just so we can all understand. So when you're talking, that's scaling, right?
uh-huh.
That's called scaling. So before you were at that place of scaling, how many candles were you putting out? I don't know, a week, a month. I don't know what stats you kept, but and I'm assuming that was just a few kinds, and then you decided to take this bigger leap. Like when you were just starting, what was that like? Because I know you were doing them in your home and everything was
Right.
done, and yes, because I want to give that picture a little bit.
Yeah. I'm probably not the best example for this. I started backwards. And
Okay.
I know this now. Like I came from zero business training. So I had this idea of a product I wanted to bring into existence. I
Okay.
brought it into existence. I had 5 different candle scents, and then I added 3 more. And along the way, there were those little moments where I was like, am I going to hire a graphic designer and do the labels, even though it was labels on like a generic packaging? I was like, yeah, I am, because it needs that. Like it
Yeah.
was almost like that's what it's going to take to get to the finished product that I envision. Um, so there were little moments along the way, but I didn't have any, like I started backwards and then I had to backfill. And this all happened like right before COVID. So when I say like I got all this fantastic packaging, it landed on my doorstep September of 2019. And then
Okay.
shortly thereafter, the world shut down. But for me, that space where there was no business, and I'd made connections with a lot of spas. That was the bulk of
Okay.
my wholesale business. Of course, they
Okay.
were all shut. They were all shut. But so for me, it was an opportunity, and I worked with a business coach. Like, okay, what's the business strategy? What's the basics? Like, I didn't
Okay.
have any of that. I was like, psh, and that was like, okay, let's figure out where we're going to start and go from there.
So did it start with, I'm trying to get the idea of the beginning. Did it start with like 1 or 2 candles and you sold them to a shop or you sold them to friends or?
Yeah. So the very, very beginning was me taking essential oils, and originally it was just a straight soy wax. And I put them in old almond butter jars and
Okay.
brought them to a yoga retreat.
Okay.
And at the time, I was considering investing in a yoga studio with a couple different women, and we were going to open a yoga
Mm-hmm.
studio. And everybody loved like the scent and this and that, because I quickly realized in my kitchen experiment how bad candles were for you in the marketplace, just toxic and full of a lot of poisons and whatnot.
Yeah.
I say poison, but I wanted to make a better product and knew I could make a better product. But being a doctor, I wanted to make one that was healing in your own home for your mind and body wellness. So in this yoga retreat, other women were like, oh my God, like I would buy one of these. These are amazing. These are great. So that was initially my, there's something here. There's
Gotcha.
something I can do with this. And then, all the different pieces came together, the wellness, like, oh, let's add crystals that, pair with essential oils to the candles. So there's actual crystals in them. It's like, well, let's make it sustainable. And I thought, oh, we'll put it in a wine glass. Well, the wine glass doesn't burn well because it's a concave kind of thing versus like the diameters are straight. So it affects the burn of the candle. So I'm like, okay, a double rocks glass, we'll do that. So little steps along the way. And then I thought, I was sharing my story with people at work and they're like, oh, well, I want to buy one. So I would set up like Square on my phone. I went to like school fairs. I was always trying to find like where this worked, and people who worked with me in the operating room, they loved it. They were like, oh, this is great. This is great. The school fairs and things, the product was always too elegant. So I didn't know that's like, like this is marketing. Find out who's good, who is your buyer, what is your target audience. I didn't have any of that knowledge. I was just like throwing like a bunch of stuff at the wall and seeing what would stick. But something in me was like, I think a spa salon, something like that would be a good fit. Okay. So hello, Google, high-end spas near me, Google, day spas near me. And I just started emailing people. And one of them responded back, a day spa outside of DC. And they're like, yeah, can you send us some samples? I said, sure. And they're like, we really like what you're doing. We'd love to bring in your line, but we only work with sales reps. Would you consider a sales rep? I was like, sure. And I met with her and she became my Jedi master really in the business world. Like, okay, Liz, like you're going to need an accounting system. I'm like, okay, like what? And she's like, well, like a QuickBooks or something along those lines. I was like, oh, okay, you're going to need SKUs. Oh, okay. How do you do that? So just all these little things. I mean, I didn't know what I didn't know, which was pretty much everything, So I was fortunate, again, the universe put this wonderful woman, Jenna, in my lap, and still to this day, I will run so much by her from, marketing. Like, here's the catalog I'm thinking about. What do you like? The look. Here's like a document to send to wholesalers. What do you think? So she's just a great resource and sounding board. And it does take a village and you don't know it at the time, but can learn so much from so many people all around, even when things don't work out. Like I learned from those fairs and like, just, little pop-up markets. It's like, okay, this is not my target audience, but these guys are doing something right. Or these guys like, ooh, that's not a great product, but people are really responding, so you're always learning.
Yeah. And I love that you didn't base your own product worth on that market. You just said, this isn't my market. Not that my product's not good. Not that you had to shift or change, but you had to find the right market. Your product was perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that because I think so many people, like anybody, products, coaches, people, services are always like, no one wants my stuff. Let me create something new. And that's not it. They're just selling to the wrong person.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that's like basic, like marketing 101. Who knew? I certainly didn't, but I got enough, and it's hard when you're in that space because you really start to doubt yourself and, that little imposter syndrome. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. I've got this other job. I should stick with that. But I was just getting so much, really joy and positive reinforcement just from like those few and even maybe far between comments of a person who would be like, oh my God, I love this. I love this. In fact, I was doing one Christmas market and I drove. It was like almost an hour away. And I'd had at this point, like a little, I don't know, baby website. I was trying to do some social media stuff. but I had one person who drove even further away, like almost 2 hours, because I had put out there, oh, come see our products. We'll be at this place. I didn't sell one thing except to this one woman who drove like almost 2 hours. Liz, I love everything you're doing. Your candles are amazing. Please just don't stop doing this. This is so great. And I was like, okay, I'm not in the right space, but all it takes is like that one person who
Yep.
drove and then bought, for me, like $100 worth of product, which was like huge because I wasn't selling a
That's
thing.
right.
She's like, I'm gonna buy all these candle tins, and I ended up, I think, giving her more than what she
Right,
bought
right.
because I was so grateful and just appreciative of that. She gave me a lot of validation in what I was doing at a time when I really needed it. So
Beautiful. Yeah, I think we all have
grateful.
that one person. Yeah. So let's go to your scaling and where we are now. So you started to talk about when you first invested
Yeah.
$20,000, which to some people is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
To be able to scale to, I don't know how many more products, and I don't know if you use distributors, and that was for any of us. I think when we have businesses that scale, like I remember when I was hit with that same question, like I have to either close or go big. Like I cannot stay where I am because I personally can't sustain it. Like there's
Yeah.
just too much to do. So
And that's
yeah,
exactly where, like, I was that same thought. And I knew what I had. I knew the level where I was. I had, some web sales. I had a iteration of a website. I don't think they're ever one and done, those things. They're constantly, whether you're doing it yourself or having a team doing it, they're
right.
constantly needing to be redone. Had some, wholesale accounts. But I knew I wanted it to be better. I knew I wanted it to be more. And I had this time done some of the research, had gone to large trade shows and seen what else is out there, how
Right.
other companies were doing it, had done more market research than, I had ever had when I was trying to design the product to begin with. And I knew to get there, these were sort of the steps I needed, and it was going to take an investment. So yeah, it was scary. And yeah, kind of fun too. When I was still running this from my house at the time, and this huge like ocean tanker on a flatbed truck pulls up in the neighborhood, and I had to hire people to unload all of these boxes from this truck. And the neighbors are going by like, what in the holy hell is she
Oh
doing in
my
that house?
goodness.
But yeah, so it's kind of fun.
Wow. Okay, so let's push forward to today
Mm,
because I know you are mega successful. You have some pretty big accounts,
yeah,
and I'm assuming you sell internationally.
we do. And we're
Yeah.
opening more. International shrunk a little bit with COVID,
Yeah.
and now that's all coming back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So um yeah, I've been a part of that. Getting to that phase for me was trusting other people to
Mhm.
do their part,
Yeah.
knowing I can't do it all by myself. There's no way anybody can. And then learning where I am needed most, like my presence, my directorship, my being the face of the brand. Currently, I am going to like trade shows, but ones where there are, qualified buyers. I'm
Right.
not going to, little school things anymore. They're industry specific shows. And I get to share my story and get to share my product. And that is really fun for me. Yeah, it's really about expanding. And when I kind of let go of, I've got to do it all myself, I'm like, you make this happen, you make that happen, you make that happen.
Yeah.
And that frees me up to do what needs to be done.
How many people do you have working for you today?
Ooh.
Around about.
Roundabout probably 15
Okay.
at various levels of
Mm-hmm.
employment. You know, a lot of different sales reps,
Yeah.
you know, are all over the country. Yeah. So it's great. Yeah.
Are you
And
still personally making these candles?
only when I want to.
Okay.
I, I did some this weekend. For me, it's still really a Zen
Yes, I
process.
understand. Right.
Yeah. Like it's fun. Like I enjoy that. Um, I still do a lot of, I know people are like, oh, how do you come up with the scents? And do you work with a perfumer or a chemist? I'm like, no, like for me, that's my like creative science outlet. So
Yeah.
I'm launching a new line. I've been doing a lot of that recently, like just kind of in my little research lab and smelling different things and blending and creating. So yeah, I pretty much now divide my time between that R&D and then just trying to expand the brand and let other
Yeah.
people do what needs to be done for the operational things.
All right. So I know for myself, it was really hard for me to see myself as a CEO. I still don't actually even use the title. I call myself chief visionary, but I recognize that I am ahead of something now. You know, like I was always like, no, no, no. And I think it was a mindset shift change for me to allow me to step into that role and really empower, like I'm in charge, right?
Mhm.
And to look at hiring, the firing, the numbers, the finance, and be like, this is what I'm doing now. Like I have to manage all of this. And I also needed to surround myself with people that were bigger than I was, or knew better, or knew where to go to ask questions, right? And I needed to change the people I was hanging around with for me
Mhm.
personally. Did you go through that? I have two questions. Did your friends and the people surrounding yourself change? And then who do you align yourself with now?
Mm, that is a great question. Yes, I have been in that space. Um, Sometimes I'm still in that space.
Mhm.
I think it's really hard as women too to step into that, I hate to say boss role, but ownership
Yeah.
of whatever it is you're doing and just complete confidence and owning everything about it, really. Like um women in my generation, I'm 55, we weren't raised that way. And even being a physician, I mean, you know, okay, so you're a doctor. Yeah, but I always had to prove myself a little bit more, you know. And when I started being a doctor, they were like, oh, hey, babe. And I'm like, that's Dr. Babe, you know, like,
Right.
yeah, there was that and not being taken seriously based on the way I looked. So that is something that's been in my vibration for decades. And yeah, I had to really work, and I'm still working on it to accept that, yeah, I'm the boss, like, which is exciting too. Like it's really very thrilling. Um, and as far as like I'm in the process of finding, and in the group of which you're leading, I am finding other men and women who are in the same space,
Yeah.
who have this great vision, who are expanding in their scale, in all of their doings, you know, financially, energetically. Um, as far as friends are interesting because of this, I have done more sort of just interpersonal transformation
Mhm.
and development and sort of elevated my energy. I find I don't want to sit around and down a bottle of Chardonnay with some of my girls and complain about the crappy existence or what this person did or said. Like, I want no parts of that. So those people, I've really kind of left them behind. And I, I mean them no harm, but I'm just not in that space anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm also happy about that. Like, I don't have time for that negativity.
Yeah. I'm the same. And not that it was so much the negativity. I also look at, I got to a place where going out for drinks was not a verb for me, like was not an action. Like if we go out somewhere and we happen to also get a drink, that's okay.
Yes,
But I'm not going for drinks, going like that was not what my plan was for the day. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? Right.
Oh, yeah.
It was a much different, it was a mindset shift that I had to be like, no. And like if like I'm very comfortable now being home, right? And I'm comfortable in it. But also with growing, I know that I have to be so alert every morning. I get the most done when I wake up, and I have to wake up clear headed, getting a really good night's sleep, right? I don't burn the candle at both ends. I like my top priority is scaling right now, right? When you're in that mode, like everything else has to fall. And I think that's been like the biggest change. But like you said, I don't miss it at all.
Wow.
I don't miss it at all.
And it comes with like caring for you, because when you're in that space, self-care is such an overused term. I really
Yeah.
don't like it. But in order to be flowing and firing at all those levels where you really are fully present and doing what you want to do, like meditation is important, your sleep is important, your like nutrition, your exercise, all of those things that are really like a pillar of your like physical, energetic, mental health, they become so important.
Right.
And that allows you to do what you want, like from that space of well-being. That, yeah, drinks and bitching about things like
Everything. Yeah.
that has no place anymore. Thank you, no.
Totally get it.
As I'm sitting here drinking, okay, this is water with lemon in a wine glass just because my hands don't work. I had to sacrifice
Yep.
hands, so holding a regular glass is an issue. But
Oh, that's right. I drink my seltzer out of a wine glass all the time. I just think it feels elegant. Like I
I
like,
agree.
yeah,
It's
I like
functional.
holding a wine glass. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it,
functional.
and it doesn't
Really.
make my drink lose its temperature when I hold this down.
Yeah, and it also doesn't get like
Yeah.
sweaty, like it's not
Yep. I
condensing
totally get it.
on everything.
Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
benefits.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited. I have one more question. Actually, I have two because I want to know how to get in touch with you. But my first one is the book. You've just finished writing your chapter for the book. I have not read it. I haven't read anyone's chapters yet. I do that on purpose. I don't read it before we go to print. But I wanted to ask, what made you decide to do it?
I want to share.
Mm,
So as much as I love the space I'm in, being an entrepreneur and, creating products that make people feel better in their sanctuary, I really want to educate. I want to share sort of my, I don't want to say trial and errors, but trial and lessons and things that I've experienced along the way in sort of hopes that I can help other people, maybe not make those mistakes, inspire somebody to either, step out of a profession you've had just because you thought you needed to do this, or you are pleasing somebody. I mean, I know now I went to medical school to seek my father's approval. Okay. So you can change your path. You can totally pivot in what brings you joy and follow that at any age. I mean, I did it at 50 years old, reinvented myself. So if anything I can do to help inspire, educate, women to live better, I want to do that. So for me, that's why I chose to be involved in the book. It was my little piece of sharing some knowledge that hopefully helps.
I love it. Thank you. And I so appreciate that you're sharing your knowledge in this book. What's the name of your chapter?
Oh gosh. That would be helpful, right? I believe, and don't hold me to this, but it is self-care tips for busy entrepreneurs, because and it's coming from a place that I know I needed as well. Like when I was trying to, still do anesthesia, when I was starting out and I'm in panic mode, I'm already behind. I could feel the stress and the tension, like, and wake up, the cortisol is already pumping through my veins. I knew I needed to change my mentality, change my routine, or this is unsustainable.
Right.
As an entrepreneur, you're just so busy always. In some ways, anesthesia was easier in that regard. It's 24/7 when you own your business. You have to schedule time to have fun and step away. At least in anesthesia, I knew I was done when I walked out the door.
Right.
It's not that way anymore. So I have some actionable items that people can easily incorporate into their busy schedule. So you're not like burning the candle at both ends.
Awesome. And I can't wait to read it too. Liz, how can people get in touch with you or buy your products, your candles?
Sure. So aluminatelife.com. My company is called Aluminate Life. It's ALUMINATE Life. Aluma is flames in Sanskrit. And then it's kind of a play on words, not just illuminating, but you're lighting your life on fire. So yeah, you can find me there. Contact at Aluminate Life is my email, and yeah, and all the social things, Instagram, LinkedIn. Yeah.
Awesome. And everything will be in the show notes as well. But in case people are just hearing this, they can they can get it. Dr. Liz, thank you so much for being a part of our program today and being one of my co-authors in our book, The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Successful Soul Professional.
I am happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. All right, everyone. Thank you for being our listeners today. And for more information about the Soul Professional movement, you can go to soulprofessional.com. This podcast is sponsored by the Natural Life Business Partnership, a global professional organization and business incubator for the soul-aligned entrepreneur. If you live in a higher vibration, have an alternative approach to business, and want to help repair the world, join us at our next meet and greet and find out more about us at soulprofessional.com. Thanks, everyone.